Hello, this is Emily from Travel Her Style. Welcome to my channel. I haven't had Scout over here in a video for a while, so I thought I would include him in the intro today. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if not, welcome. This is a channel where I do a whole bunch of sewing tutorials and talk about sustainable fashion, and that's what I'm going to be doing today, a sewing tutorial. I'm going to show you how to make a super easy one-piece swimsuit, and yeah, it's going to be really fun and easy, so let's get started. Alright, so this is the swimsuit that we're going to be making today. It's a pretty classic and simple one piece with a v-neck in the front and a low-cut back that crosses, and you can decide if you want these straps to cross or go straight down. And yes, that's what we're going to make. It shouldn't be too hard, and it also shouldn't take too long. I think this took me like a day or two, where I did like a few hours of sewing and filming a day. So yeah, it doesn't take too long, and you also don't need a pattern. I make pretty much everything without a pattern and just using things in my own closet, so don't worry about that. You have everything you need already to make it. As far as fabric goes, this one is from the Fabric Fairy. It's probably my all-time favorite place to buy swimwear fabric, although I've discovered some new ones recently that I absolutely love, so I'll link those below. A couple of those include knitfabric.com and fabric.com, and there's one person on Etsy who has a million fun different styles, and they even do custom fabrics, and it's not very expensive, so I'll link them below. That's a new favorite of mine. But yes, this is from the Fabric Fairy in case you want to get the same one. Alright, so I'm going to get started with all of the materials that you need and the amounts and everything. So yes, let's get to it. Also, before I forget, of course, I can't forget to say to like and subscribe if you like it, of course. Alright, let's get started. Really fast before we get any further, I just wanted to show you what the final product will look like, because I hate those videos where you have to wait until the very end to see if you actually like it or not. Started doing this in all my videos because that's what I wish people would do. So yes, this is what the final product will look like. Alright, now let's really get started with all of the materials that you need. First things first, you're going to need some fabric. I listed my favorite ones below. This specific one is from the Fabric Fairy. You'll also need matching thread. I like to use 100% polyester thread and elastic. That is 3/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. Next, you can see I'm laying my fabric out flat, and this is folded in half so that I can get it to be as long as possible, because I want to make a super long strap. So the first thing I'm going to do is just cut out that long strip of fabric. It's about, I don't know, 1.5 inches or 2 inches wide. It doesn't really matter, just it doesn't need to be that thick. So cut that out first. You'll also need 2 smaller pieces about 3 inches long and the same width. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I don't like to use a pattern, so what I'm using here is another one-piece swimsuit that has a similar fit, and I just use that to pretty much trace and cut exactly what I want it to be. I also don't make it super precise because I kind of like to fit things as I go, so I just use this as a general guide. If you don't have a swimsuit that fits the same way, you could also use like a well-fitting tank top or bodysuit, and then put a pair of like underwear or swimsuit bottoms at the bottom to use as a guide. That's pretty much what the piece will look like, and I forgot to mention you'll also need some lining fabric, so make sure to cut that out with your lining fabric too for both of these front and back pieces. This time I decided to draw around the bottoms and sketch it out basically on the fabric, because I wanted it to fit a little bit differently on my final product than from the one that I was using, so try and do something similar. Basically you're just going to draw a low cut back, and the bottoms will be traced just like the bottoms are. as you can see, there's also a little part that goes out at the bottom. There's like a little curve in the back. I would recommend doing that just because that will be where our strap connects at the end. So you can use mine as a kind of guide when you're cutting yours out. And these are the final pieces that we're going to use. Okay, now it's time to start sewing. So the first thing that we're going to do, just because it's super easy and I like to get it out of the way first, is we're going to make our straps. So you can just fold your long strip of fabric together, right sides together, lengthwise, and then put your elastic on top of it and sew all the way down. I also like to double stitch just to make sure that it stays in place. Here's what a finished strap will look like. So after you've sewn the elastic and fabric together, that long strip of fabric, this is how it's going to look. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but that's how it will look afterward. What you're going to do next is just cut off the excess fabric. Now, one thing that you can't see when I'm sewing very well is that when you're sewing on top of the elastic, one stitch will go on the elastic and one stitch will go to the right of it. So one on, one off. Once you've cut off the excess fabric, you're just going to cut a little slit at the top and the side, but don't go all the way through. This is what you're going to put your loop turner through so that you can turn the entire thing right side out. I really recommend getting a loop turner if you're planning on making a lot of swimsuits, but if you don't have one, for the meantime, you can also just use a bobby pin, and you can use that same little opening and just pull your bobby pin through that and pull that top little opening through the rest of it, if that makes sense. It just takes such a long time if you're making a strap this long to completely flip it right side out if you don't have a loop turner. So really recommend getting one. It's super cheap and such a time saver. Now you're going to follow the exact same process for the little straps, except without elastic, because I found that it would get too bulky. These are the ones that we're going to use in the back at the bottom and going to put our big strap through at the end. Awesome, now we're done with the straps and we're going to move on to sewing the rest of the swimsuit. So start by putting your back pieces together, right sides together, and sew along that middle seam that's just going to, follow the natural curve of your body, and do that for the lining fabric as well. And then you'll just sew right along that edge. I haven't mentioned this yet, but just in case you haven't sewn swimwear before and didn't know, make sure to always use a zigzag stitch if you're using a regular sewing machine. If you're using a serger, obviously that's a different story, but yes, I always use my regular sewing machine and just use a regular zigzag stitch for swimwear. Now the next step will be to sew the piece that we just sewed together to the front. So for the lining, you can't really tell what's right sides together, but I put those right sides together, whichever part is softest I put together, and just sewed along the bottom and those sides, leaving the leg holes open, of course. And here's what it's going to look like when you sew. Alright, once you've done that for both your lining and your regular fabric, you're going to put those pieces right sides together. So that's what I'm doing now. Once you've lined those up as well as possible, you're going to take your two long straps and you're going to put them between those two pieces and pin them in place. So you can see that's what I'm doing now. And once you've put those in place, you're also going to take your smaller straps and fold them in half and put it into that little curve part at the bottom. So you'll see where I put them now. Fold them and put them inside with the fold facing down, pin them in place, and then you're just going to sew all the way around that back bottom part and the front V, sewing all of the straps in place as you go. Okay, so that is how it'll look once it's all sewn, and the next step is just going to be to cut a little bit in that V in the center, and make sure to cut as close as you can to the thread, to the stitching, but without cutting through it, and that'll just make the V more pronounced when you flip it right side out as I'm doing now. Alright, it's coming together. The next step is going to be adding some elastic around that curved part of the bottom, just between where those two strap openings are. I found that just made it fit a little bit better, and then it stuck to my back instead of sticking out from my body a little bit. So make sure to pull that a little bit as you sew. Normally when you're sewing with elastic, like when we were making our straps earlier, you wouldn't want to pull on the elastic, but in this case you do want to pull a little bit just so that it scrunches a little bit and fits your body that much better. Okay, we're finally getting close to finishing up. The next step is just to finish off the bottoms. We're finally going to sew those leg openings. So for this step, I just sew a little loose basting stitch to keep the fabric pieces together and in place. And then the next step is going to be when we finish it up. But just start by sewing all the way around the opening. Now, once you've done that, you can fold that part over and put your elastic between the two layers and sew it in place. That'll keep it from flipping over, and once you're done with that, you just cut off the excess fabric and you're all done. And here's the final product, and that's me wearing it in Punta Cana. Thank you, Mom, for filming that for me.
Morning comes, those morning runs, stayed all night long, we having fun, we never done, I'll never run, little lies don't matter now, we live.
Alright, that's all I've got for you today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe as always, and tune back in next week for another video like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.